Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the reigning world champion, the Terran in the blue from Team Liquid. It's Clem. Facing off against the Protoss player in the red, we have Shameless. A best of 3 Terran versus Protoss showdown. And speaking of Shameless, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy! 1,547 likes on this video and this cast. I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better as a Stargate is the choice for Shameless to start things off. An engineering bay block forced him outside to the third, and Clem is going to try to exploit that directly. Already reactored Hellions in production, treated almost like a Terran versus Zerg to start. But if you're able to force the Protoss to split their bases like this, well, one, it slows down your own economy. But honestly, I think Clem would rather drag both players' economy down and get to the point where microing individual units makes the difference. As this first Adept already fawning out as things get hot and heavy. First couple Hellions gets another volley and barely gets away. A single Hellion shot, even a Marine hit, would take it out. 5 HP remains. But that's still more than 0. And that's what counts. Phoenix to start. The Hellions obviously revealed. Just 4 of them driving across. This is almost... Well, this is a bit shameless from Clem. Just going directly for Hellion. The most obvious build in this scenario. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can stop it. The probe spotting for it. Hellions will give away that position. He's going to try to draw the Adepts away. Quite a poker game here. As he burns through one of the Adepts, there is the Phoenix on the way out as well. None of the Hellions take it out. Finally gets one, lifts up one. Border Patrol, only able to keep control of a single Hellion. But with only 2 of them, he's not easily going to be able to take out any probes. Picks up another. And, well, Shameless has handled this about as well as could be expected. In fact, getting every single... Well, okay. He energy recharged one of the Phoenixes. And we'll have enough energy to pick him up, knock him down, and reset the whole count. Already, a pretty unique start to this series in this game, as it's going to be Phoenixes coming across the map. I was going to say uncontested, but Clem is waiting for them on the way across, and the Cyclone locks on. Might be able to just take out the first Phoenix, barely gets out of vision. But unfortunately, I don't think Shameless is going to be able to hire any SCVs to repair that Phoenix. So go back home. Back to the reserves, at least for now. Though likely will be needed again before it's all said and done. The Cyclones will lock on in the main. Only locks on with 1. The double lock, though, will be enough. And knocks one of the Phoenixes into the forest of lava. Not entirely sure what sort of biosphere supports this sort of vegetation, but I've already... thought way too hard about it compared to the fact that it looks really cool, but also so hot. I do love the contrast. Moving on, Immortals and Phoenixes. Mech Protoss. How many gates? Just 2 gates filling in a handful of gateway units. But between the Stargate and the robotics facility, that's going to be the majority of Shameless's unit composition. Meanwhile, Clem kind of doing a similar sort of thing. He's got double Viking siege tank. There's a real possibility of just a direct siege tank Viking push. Filling in whatever Marines he can underneath. Stim will be starting, but there's no way Clem sits back until Stim completes. Especially with Shameless just laying down. He has the juice box spray, which, one, why would a Protoss ever need a juice box? No mouths, obviously. I do love it. Hidden under every Nexus is 1 juice box, giving him that extra bit of energy. I didn't even know that spray existed. Moving on. Time for something completely different. This is a TVT build, by the way. He's got reactored Vikings, siege tanks, and Cyclones. Though, it's been such a technical start. Both players going for power units early on and only filling in the chaff later. Oh no, Shameless. The Immortal supply block for nearly the entirety of a Chrono Boost, and that could make the difference in defending against this push. Shameless does have 8 more probes and counting. The Phoenix is cutting off some of the reinforcements. Looks like one of them got taken out, probably that bruised one from earlier. But the Viking count, if the Phoenixes are on the other side of the map, he can drop the Vikings down. The siege tank is lifted. The LCVs will be able to repair it, thus begging the question of why they can't attack units in the air. But that's a question for another day, and that day will be never. Meanwhile, where did the Vikings go? The Vikings came back to defend against the Phoenixes, abandoning the siege tanks to get obliterated by the Immortals. The Vikings trying to deal with the Phoenixes, but if the Vikings were on the ground against that, well, they may have just died as well. Those 3 Immortals are a lot to contend with. What a technical exchange, but Shameless definitely getting the better end of things. Only now is Clem getting the triple threat. He's set up at his base. He's not going to wall off his... It appears the units can get out from there, but it's quite a choke point. If he ever wants to build siege tanks again, good luck. But he's got a reactor in production on that factory. Vikings on patrol in the main. In fact, dancing him around. Gotta get that APM somewhere, alright? The Phoenix count, 6. Vikings at 8. Both players acknowledging a ground army is probably a good skill to have at this stage of the game, especially considering Shameless already has a robotics bay, and he's getting a Templar Archives. What are we doing? Okay, well, I guess we're going to a full-on macro game. As Clem is finishing his 3rd command center, he's got quite an army ready to move out, finishing +1 attack as well as combat shield stim already completed. But Shameless not intimidated by Clem. Instead of playing timid or trying to do some sort of crazy all-in, he's recognized the map control he has and the economic advantage. So he's going to have 4 bases, plenty of probes. He's already working on Archons. The one brave Marine, Big Gabe over here. All right, well, that's about as dramatic a death as he could ask for. Another Marine! Can't catch me! Oh. Well, that's a bit of a kill steal. Widely considered to be a dick move. The Phoenix is playing pickup games. Cyclones and Vikings leading the charge. Picks up a few of the mines. The Immortal count is damn high. The Phoenixes drop back. And the Bio Army is kiting behind the siege tanks, but the siege tanks are just pummeled from the field by the sheer weight of the Immortals. 5 Immortals. Does he have 2 robos, or he just been pumping them out? Off of 1 robotics facility. He has been very committed to that Immortal, but oh no, the Warp Prism gets knocked out of the sky, straying into Viking range. A pretty big mistake there, but overall, Shameless has a competitive army. Clem already going for ghosts. He realizes with the Archons on the field in general, no Liberators, no second starport yet, but the ghosts can soften almost everything up, wiping out a significant percentage of the effective HP, and of course, the energy on the Phoenixes and the Sentries. Not that that's easy to come by. Is there any vision here? He EMP'd the Observer. Clem has no idea that this army is right outside his base. In fact, there's a Warp Prism as well. He could potentially just drop on top or head to the main. Either way, Clem completely out of position for this. He finished a bunker, but it will be obliterated immediately. Bunker is dead. The rest of the reinforcements are coming in, but the main base completely undefended as well. A full warping of charge lots. The Vikings will come in and knock the Warp Prism out, but the damage is already done. Meanwhile, the main army, Widow Mines will hit a couple of the Zealots on the way out, but the Zealots are all within the main. A few down to the natural. The Vikings will have to put this to rest for now, but EMPs, softening up the Archons, and he's just tearing through everything else. Without the Zealots in front, the Immortals will just crumble to the combined fire of the Bio Army. Shameless drops down 40 supply. He killed 15 SCVs, but he lost pretty much his entire army. His army supply is 35 to 96 right now, and the Vikings are still intact. He kept the armory alive. He lost one of his engineering bays, but it wasn't upgrading anything critical. Shameless does not have much time to recover from this position. The only saving grace, he just finished Blink and +2 attack. So Clem waiting for his Vikings to come across. Is he repairing them? Nope, he's walking. Well, that certainly won't... They don't fly very fast, but they walk even slower, so... Shameless, with that economy to fall back on and that level of production, has enough army to be competitive, and that single Colossus on the high ground. Not convinced that force field did anything but line up the Zealots and make it easier for the Widowmines to get critical damage. Then again, emotional support fields are a staple of any imbalanced breakfast. 2 Colossi out. No extended thermal lance. The Vikings cutting back. 1 Colossi toppled. The Widowmines dragged into the front of the army as well. The Colossus still getting some swipes out. An emotional support probe is pulled off the line. Targeting down the Vikings. Clem is forced back. Shameless has a 2 upgrade advantage. And I think Clem, underestimating the power of those gateway units, actually driven back for now. But there's still 3 Widowmines on the field. They don't have drilling claws. They're just... Everybody kind of forgot about him here. Oh, blinks out of 1. Good reaction time from Shameless. Does he realize there's one more where that came from? He does, but he chose wrong. Oh. They'll expect one of us in the wreck. Clem scans the base to the north. Shameless still has the economy. He's had an income lead for the vast majority of the last 10 minutes. Not a significant one, but any lead at all is something he'll take against the world champion. Recall on top of the base. Can lose a few more probes. Doesn't recall everything, just a few stalkers and a handful of archons. So, a smart recall, not committing everything. But the thing is, now he knows. Recall's on cooldown. Another minute and a half before it's available. And without it, Clem might be able to pin down the Protoss army or divide and conquer. The medevacs being repaired, I'm so proud of you, Clem. Medevacs being repaired actually takes a little bit more micro, because if you just right-click on most units, you can repair them. But medevacs, you have to R-click, because otherwise the SCVs just load in for a first-class ride, and they can't repair from the inside out, unfortunately. They can repair things in the air, they just can't repair them while they're in the things in the air. All right, write that down. Or just like and subscribe, and we'll count it. Meanwhile, that's a lot of Archons out front. Shameless, not bothering with Storm. I really do feel a lot of Protoss kind of know their limits. Trying to control Storm on top of all this. Forcing the EMPs onto the Archons. But there's so many ghosts. 9 ghosts. A terrifying army for the Protoss. Blinking out of the mines, though. And Shameless still closing in. It is that stage of the game with so much Protoss and the ability to warp it. He has a 2 upgrade advantage on the ground, but the EMPs will wipe out almost all the effective HP of the Archons. Shield stripped away, Colossi distracted by a command center. And Clem manipulating this fight about as well as could be expected, and you expect pretty much everything out of Clem. Vikings knock down one of the prisms. No ship weapons upgrades for Clem. So maybe a bit of an oversight there, but he's actually broke. He's spending everything. He's adding on a second starport now. But, overall, Shameless still maintains a significant income lead. He's getting a Dark Shrine. He's now working on Disruptors. The double Ds of destruction finally coming together. And we'll see if Clem is devastated, demolished, or determined to turn this around. Because right now, Shameless, like, if it wasn't Clem, if this was Protoss versus Terran, with no names, I would say Shameless has the lead. He has the economy, he has the upgrades, he has the composition, he has a cinematic of Zealots down here. 29 Zealots on the field. He's lost 83 Zealots. He's lost more Zealots than Marines and Marauders combined. But it's just the beginning. How many gateways? 11 gates and counting. He's got a great wall of gates in the main. Scattering a few more in. The double robo outside the third. Ship weapon upgrades finally on the way for Clem. He's moving out. Ah, yes, the accidental Reaper. In the midst of everything, Disruptor shot. Kind of thrown out there. Doesn't find anything. Well, there's an EMP hit center mass, though. Down goes a Colossus. Over to Shaq at the free throw line with the Ruptors, though. And Clem is just ripping through, but the Zealots? Reinforcements from Clem. will be able to hold the third base for now, but he just runs the Zealots around. Clem finishes 3-3. Vikings hit the deck to the north side. 15. Wow. He just breaks down the missile turret and into the main. At least the natural for now. Disruptor shot finds a connection. Another one chunking through. But it's not enough yet. He hasn't done enough to slow down the momentum. The upgrades have evened out. There's still ghosts for EMP. He can soften up even more of this army. But will kite back. The Stalkers block forward. The Vikings trying to help out on the ground. But Clem forced to retreat, and there's still a Zealot. That Zealot 4 kills, 5 kills, finally taken down. But the rest of the army is chasing across. Barely enough time to unload. There were a couple Vikings in those medevacs. I told you they'd never fly again. Disruptor shot to zone out. He wants to fight the planetary, but there's no bigger contest here. Ship weapons 1 done for the Vikings on the ground. Yes, it counts. Meanwhile, the Stalker's blinking, and he's just on top of it. Look at the surface area for those Zealots. Able to get on top of much of the army, finally getting choked off. Disruptor shot, though. Looks for a good angle, doesn't quite find it. Meanwhile, there's a Dark Templar in the main base. Hasn't killed anything, it's just chopping away at some depots. Which is maybe one of the saddest Dark Templar actions. But 12 SCVs dead. Another DT at the natural. Maybe one of the third. Scattered throughout. The result of all of this, Clem is down 18 supply. Shameless still has most of his bases besides the one that Clem just ripped apart. Shameless still has the income, but neither player really has enough comfortable income to tech up any further. Clem is adding in a few Liberators, but he doesn't have a fusion core for advanced ballistics, and he's only got +1 ship weapons. Whereas Shameless is struggling to mine gas right now. He only has 600 gas per minute, despite having more bases than Clem, because Clem has the rich Vespine Geyser. What that means is no Stargate, no Fleet Beacon, and he's not even thinking about Storm, it seems. It is one of those. I don't think he forgets Storm exists, but trying to make Templar work, one of the slowest units against one of the fastest and most mobile compositions that Clem has, it could be good, but focusing on staying aggressive with gateways and gateway units and disruptors, I think is how Shameless wants to play it. You gotta pick your play to your strengths if you're up against Clem. And so far, Clem is on the ropes. He's getting chased out of the way, trying to retreat to one of his planetaries. Fires off a double barrel shot. Hits 2 Zealots. Oh no! He Dick Cheney'd it. Another shot, though, finds double ghosts and some of the Marauders. Retreats back. Disruptors continually flung out. A fadeaway force field covering the retreat. A single Colossus mixed into the composition helps out a lot with forcing Clem to commit more of his units instead of just constantly splitting against the Ruptors. Marauders firing over the top. EMP, I think he didn't quite dodge it with the blink. But Clem darting in again. Another volley comes up short, but more Disruptors. A single Marauder is taken out, but another split, and just nothing. But he didn't expect the next 20 Zealots swinging in from the south side. Not quite perfect timing on the flank, but they'll get out in front of everything, and Shameless just leveraging his economy. It's not about how many units you lose, it's about how much you have to replace them with. And right now, Shameless continues to have the income lead. 185 to 145 supply. Clem, he doesn't even have the army supply here. Everything is an advantage for Shameless, but he does have to close it out. He's trying to deny this base. The Stalkers aren't going to be enough to deal with this. Warps at 1 DT, 1 Zealot. I like the mixed bag there. Vikings knock down a Colossus. Disruptors can't fire down the Ram. Stalkers blink over the top. Scans to deal with the Dark Templar. And small stuff like this, you really need to clean up quickly. This is how Clem just drags himself back into the game. The Disruptors, 1 pop, 2, 3 for 3, and gets a 4th one for free. 4 Disruptors taken out without a shot connecting. Another one flung out, but Clem dodges away and closes the supply gap. Again, Clem turning it around. Another Ruptor shot coming up short. Finally, the medevac will be taken down, but it already did so much damage. So many Marines caught with it, but more Stalkers getting chased down. Concussive shells very much in effect. Disruptor. Somehow concussive shells work against that as well, despite the fact it's like a gliding ball of energy. Don't question it. There are so many Zealots just streaming in. The Colossus Disruptor shot. He dodges! What a play! He dodges with the SCVs. Vikings hit the deck. He loses the planetary, but he saved a few extra units. It cost a bit more, and Shameless dangerously close on supply. Neither player going for upgrades. The aggression will continue. The medevac's nearly out of energy. No fusion core for Caduceus reactor. No money to invest in it. Shameless still mining from that bottom right base as well. The Stalkers are going forward. More Zealots cut down. EMP trades fire. 210 Zealots have been slaughtered. But he has plenty more. Where that came from. The fact that Shameless is still mining from all these bases, he has 1,500 more minerals per minute. We can see it down in the tab. Does Clem... Oh, Clem does know about the bottom right corner base. He's sending out a single Liberator past the massive, I don't know, exhaust jet or whatever that is. But Blink knocks out one medevac. Looking for the Marauders as well, but the sheer amount of gateway units. A single Liberator can make quite a difference. Good reaction time from Shameless. Already pulling away by the time its siege is up. I think a DT slipped in. Killed 3 more SCVs. Clem down to 37. Shameless finally re-expanding to the 12 o'clock like 8 minutes later. The medevacs are completely drained on energy. The stims themselves are almost too much. He's got to be careful with his EMP targeting as well. Another. They're coming around again. Guardian Shield popped. Guardian Shield incredibly effective against Terran as it reduces all range damage to units underneath it by 2. And every unit, it's effectively like having +2 armor and shields against every Terran unit but the SCV. It doesn't matter whether they're within it either. It just like reinforces their armor and shields. Don't worry about the specifics on it. We've already been over how space magic works. Don't question it. Clem has slightly more army supply. Shameless is nearly maxed out. The saving grace could be winning one decisive fight. There are 3 Disruptors, 36 Zealots. And Disruptors and Zealots have a very tough working relationship. I don't know if there are 2 units in the game that have less synergy with one another. But you gotta make it work somehow. Just run out of the way at the last second. Oh, that was easy for you to say. Dark Templar still being warped in. Both players maxed out. Shameless starting to bank money. This has been so hectic, though. There's been so much back and forth that neither has had any hope of teching up past this point. Shameless has plenty of minerals, but almost no gas, because he's just trying to refill the Zealots and have enough meat in front of those Raptors to keep them alive and maybe get the hits. Another Disruptor cut off with the reinforcements, but here comes Clem with a near 2/3 surround. Disruptor shots now finally flung out, but there's plenty of opportunity to micro back. Is he going to try to recall? He's caught in a corner. And Clem is out of energy on the medevacs, but this was the fight he was waiting for. Shameless gets caught. The Disruptors don't find the connections. And Clem is able to corner him. The Bio Army, the dregs of it left over. He can't even really heal it up. Another wave of Zealots. 250 Zealots have been cut down by Clem so far. And I don't think we're even close to the end of it. Chasing this down. Again has to stim. Not even all the units can stim. Some of them just walking. As the Zealots chase them around the corner, the planetary will be the backstop. DT's coming in again. Multiple bases. There is a single Marine. 10, 11 more SCVs dead. A recall, and he barely gets there in time, though I'm not sure that's going to help. As these Zealots, he's kiting him back, but the sheer amount of Zealots... The ghosts are helping, but even without shields, more zealots coming in. The army's pretty much just zealots at this point. He's jammed into the mineral line. There's no range damage. And again, Shameless, no, what are you doing? A Colossus shows up to the party, but realizes that it's almost over. The zealots come back up again. Clem keeps getting driven back into the mineral fields as the zealots don't do well in tight spaces. 62 to 22 workers. He's on mule life support right now, which is doubly difficult because of the Dark Templar. The DT's forcing scans, and then the mules being required to have any sort of real economy. Clem, he's going to have this one army. Shameless might not realize how much economic damage he's managed to do, because a lot of it has been done by just DTs thrown in that he's clearly looking away from because he's busy trying not to lose his entire army to Clem's incredibly well microed bio. The DT's hunting. There are 4 orbital commands, so enough to save up a few scans and still have a couple mules on the field. The DT's slicing. Widowmine's unburrowed to minimize the potential effect. The Stalker Zealot in position. Some sensor towers coming up. The medevacs are slowly regenning energy, and they managed to heal up the surviving bio. There are 8 medevacs on the field. But it looks like we're going for another round. Both players have rebuilt. I don't know if we'll ever see 200 supply again. They've both rebuilt as best they could. Almost dead even. 108 to 107 army supply. There is 1 Viking. 21 Marauders, though. But the Colossi, a great choice to keep mixing back in. He has 4 Colossi. Zealots running by. Shameless again. 284, 288. How many zealots will be lost before the end? The Colossi stepping forward. Clem with the Marauders tanking the damage. Marauders much more durable. Those light units, easier to incinerate. Shameless blinks in with the Stalkers, try to take down an orbital. Could be a very valuable pickoff at this stage of the game. Always valuable, but especially so with Dark Templar, an existential threat. Gonna take down the planetary, remove this location, make it easier to potentially attack it again. The Vikings find an angle over the top. Gotta be careful with the charge lots, chomping at the bit to attack. But that's not always the call. There's so many zealots, they're tripping over one another. He has 41 zealots on the field. That Protoss army now maxed out. 140 to 137 supply. Clem, now for the last 10 minutes straight, Shameless has had the income advantage. Widowmines will chunk up a few more. Another orbital command. And the Zealot's going to be cut off some of the reinforcements. He's got to be so careful with those Colossi. If only Shameless knew how broke Clem was, maybe we'd see Storm. But at this point, they're both locked in very clearly. We have our compositions. We haven't had a single upgrade for like 15 minutes. We haven't had a single change of unit composition or addition of any tech for the same amount of time. They've just been brought. Storm is in production. Shameless, stop listening to the cast of the future. Wow, what a Shameless play. But Clem, the 22 SCVs allow him to build up a massive army supply. He's gonna have one shot, one opportunity. Will he capture it? Or will Shameless throw so many zealots they'll slip through it? Retreating, EMP hits, Colossi already badly bruised. A couple more retreating back. Storm is not quite done yet. Warps in another legion of zealots. The Colossi are all gonna go down without barely attacking at all. There's 42 zealots on the field, and that's about it. Just like 4 or 5 Stalkers in a sentry. Storm is about to complete. He could warp in half a dozen High Templar at this stage. Energy recharge should be available. Clem is coming around. He warps in one High Templar. Energy recharge. He needs it. A storm. Weathers it for now. The medevac's very low on energy. There's so many zealots sprinting in. Clem, the bio ball is so thick, though. And getting through it, he needs more Templar. EMPs on the front lines. Vikings hit the deck. The Marauders are microing back. Shameless is bleeding out supply very quickly. The Marauders just chunking through the Stalkers as soon as they get a hold of them. This Nexus is gone. Archons, though, there's no more ghosts on the field. Archons could be an incredible choice. After all this time, finally going for the Archons. But Clem, he just has this army supply. Shameless, he's done so much. Did he ever get DT Blink? Yes. A few reinforcements. That should be enough DTs to deal with that. But that, he would have to be paying attention to it. The EMP blinks away. I don't know how many scans are left. There's only 3 orbital commands. We could be at a DT base trade where there's almost no detection. The storms. And he just melts through a bunch of the bio. A whole bunch of the rest in the troublesome spot as well. Energy recharge used on the Templar. The Zealot's coming back in for more. He's stuck in the back corner. Blinks on top of the DTs. The boys are pulled. The DTs are taken out by the Ghost. The boys have to hold the line. Clem is down to 7 SCVs. Barely half of what he started with. 33 minutes in. But he still has the army roaming around. Shameless is running out of mineral patches. He's almost completely dry. He's long distance mining 54 probes. Energy recharge in 15 seconds. There's one Ghost. And it doesn't have the energy for EMP for another 10 seconds. Another Nexus attempted. A storm. Shameless trying to stagger it. He just uses a feedback. There's one more storm. One more storm. Shameless is out of money otherwise. Another storm. But the Marauders continue rolling through. And oh no! Shameless! The player that I almost guarantee you 98% of you had no idea existed before this cast, despite being one of the top 50. On the precipice of victory against the world champion. But unfortunately, 390 zealots tumble into the abyss and form a bridge for Clem to walk across and claim it. Wow. So close. Yet, just a bit too far. What a heartbreaking loss for Shameless. I think, therefore I am. But also, I really just expected Clem to do that. Oh, send a Liberator there, send a Medevac there, boom, boom, boom. Now I'm winning. But no. Shameless just Legion, like round upon round. So many. I don't know if I've ever seen that many Zealots in a single game. Especially not a competitive one. But it wasn't enough. And now this is from the OLC Championship. Make sure to check them out when you get an opportunity. Jimmy in the description. Which brought some classic maps back into play. So game 2 will be on Resvin. You might recognize it. Probably one of the most popular maps of a couple years ago. One of the ones that nobody really vetoed because there are no distinct advantages for any race in particular. But, oh no. That's a heartbreaking game for Shameless. He had every advantage, but of course, it's imperfect information. It's impossible to tell for sure that Clem is at 0 minerals and less army supply. I think the storm, I still think was the right call. It's just a little overcommitted to the run buys. 390 zealots was probably about 150 too many to be losing for relatively little. When the zealots take up the majority of the land area on the screen, that might be a bit much. If only they could like leap over one another into the fray. Okay, that's what I want to see, like a Chinese checkers sort of situation. And Zealot's just jumping off the back of another Zealot into the midst. Still probably getting gunned down by a bunch of Marines and Marauders, but it would look amazing. John Eyre. You killed my warp prism. And now I'm coming for you. Factory's on the way. Another thing that almost carried him through, and it's one of those where I think you put Max Packs in that same situation, almost pick any point in the first 30 minutes, and pretty quickly he turns it into a victory. I think it's very hard to, like, you go up against someone, you know how many complaints I see about, well, how is it he's Masters or he's Diamond and I'm only Gold? Well, I'll tell you right now, Clem has 1,000 more MMR than Shameless, but in GM that doesn't matter. Which is the difference, if you wanted to translate it down, between a Gold player and almost Masters. Of course, that's not exactly how the exponential curve works at this level, so that's not really the best comparison, but there's been larger upsets before, but Clem recently is just a monster. And by recently, I mean like 2 years. What? There's a Reaper Cliff there. Phoenix Scout. Take a look around off the energy recharge sentry. Blank is on the way. Going with the more classical choice. No engineering bay block this time around. Viking and Siege Tank. Another TVT-esque opener from Clem. Hallucinated Phoenix spotting for it. Is he just gonna walk across the map? Well, picks up the tank in the medevac. And now I think Shameless might be wishing at a few Phoenixes instead. As this is all gonna hit, this is all designed to hit before Blink. I'm sure Clem is very aware of when Blink is likely to complete. As one of the top 3 Protoss players in the world himself, at least in this matchup. And the tank just plopped right back down. The next best thing to a tank evac. The sentry just gets obliterated, targeted before he can pull it back. And the pylon. Oh, he gets the medevac with the Cyclone. Possibly the best case scenario here for Shameless. Getting that medevac and the Cyclone, allowing him to walk by and take out the siege tank, has kept this from being a total rout. If that medevac doesn't go down with the Cyclone inside, if he's not able to just walk past the tank, it's almost GG right there. Now, Clem only has 29, now 30 SCVs. This is not nearly as powerful without the medevac, without any sort of support. So he's forced all the way back. Shameless is just going to take a third. He might not realize exactly how committed Clem is. He did have the hallucinated Phoenix Scout, but just slapping down a third base. Repowers the gateways. Immortals in production. Clem just getting 2 more barracks back at home. But I think he spotted it here. Actually, a blink? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, this is awkward. Oh, no. He's getting a Forge, he's getting Charge, and he's getting Templar Archives. Which is exactly the opposite of what he... There's only one Immortal at home. Oh, no, 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 it's bad! Oh, he's just gonna recall. He recalls back, but the Immortal's dead. The third base, the probes. Clem just comes across with a little bit more of the same thing. And it's a disaster for Shameless. Yes, he can maybe stabilize with the Blink Stalkers. But he's already taken so much damage. Losing that oh, he shoots his own pocket. Oh, I think it's the nerves. It's such a desperate scenario, and Clem is putting the screws to him right now. There are enough pylons to keep that robo powered, but I don't know if one Immortal is going to turn this around. Charge is about to complete, but he straight up lost the gateways. He's down to a single gateway. An Immortal and one more Zealot. The robo itself, he's going to pop out the Immortal, and this is the best case scenario. He blinks over to the side, though. The siege tank's target fire just ripping through the Stalkers. The Immortal barrier already triggered, shield stripped away. And Clem reasserts himself, not bothering to drag this one out. Honestly, I think some respect for Shameless after that last game, clearly showing he can hang with him. In fact, I bet Clem was one mediocre fight from tapping out of game 1, but game 2 will be much more decisively in his corner. So, that brings us to our bonus game, which is Clem versus Cure. But the twist, Clem is our Protoss. So, I thought we'd have a little bit of compare and contrast, just in order to balance out our balance complaints. So, make sure to pay your toll, like, subscribe, and if we're going to refer to it, we'll call it the final game. Team Liquid Clem. Team... Okay. The reason I'm pointing this out is they're both on the same team. I'm not sure how much they practice together. In fact, it's been a little while since I've seen Cure play. Cure, the People's Terran, known for his solid, comfortable macro. Not so much his originality or micro. Has a tendency to make mistakes that can cost him the game, but usually has such a solid game plan and enough army supply behind it, it doesn't always do so. But Clem, on the other hand, one of the most precise, both as Terran and Protoss. He's decided now, it's no longer just a fad or a gimmick. Literally, for the last 2 months straight, Clem has played every single match against Terran as Protoss. He has now cut TVT out of his matchups. So we can say at this point, we have our first truly biracial StarCraft 2 player. Now, and once again, I don't entertain the arguments of like, yeah, but he only plays Protoss against Terran. I don't see anyone else doing anything like Raynor playing Protoss against Zerg, but the Zergs are almost extinct at this point. Partially because Raynor plays Protoss against Zerg. And nobody as consistently or at this level. I guess you've played so many matches. It's a combination of nobody likes mirror matches. Viewers, players, Clem. In fact, his Terran versus Terran was by far the weakest. So, instead of playing Terran versus Terran, he's picked up the Protoss, and he's blinking his way up the ladder with, well, the professional ladder. He's already at the very top of the ladder, obviously. I do think that playing max packs for like 17 hours a day for the last 3 years straight has definitely contributed to Clem's success immediately as Protoss. He knows exactly how to play Protoss to beat your average or above average Terran. Or literally the best Terran, which he is. And since Clem, this is true, with our current technology, cannot be forced to play himself as Terran, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if there are any Terrans who are favored against him as Protoss. Like, I'm racking my brain. Here, probably 3rd or 4th ranked of all the Terrans. We got Clem, and then beyond, Maru. I feel like Maru's kind of effectively retired at this point, and has been for a little while. He'll still show up to things, but he hasn't played in any weekly tournaments. He doesn't even show up on the ladder always. It really does feel like Maru. It's not like you lose all your skill when you don't play for a while, but I don't think he's practicing, unfortunately. So I would not, what I'm trying to say is I would not put him up there as a, even if he's ranked up there, I would not qualify him as a top, maybe even 4 Terran at this point. It'd be Clem, who's now slipping behind the mineral line. And just like he owns the place, which I guess he does because there's no answer. It's Clem, Beyond. And then you can make an argument, Gumiho, Cure, and Maru, I think, are all in different ways kind of at that level. But a pretty distant third, especially in TVP. Hellion gets in. So 5 SCVs dead to the Adepts, which is about 5 SCVs too many. Meanwhile, the Hellion will do a full drive-by and then just leave. See ya. Blink is on the way, of course. Warp Prism, just a straight up blink timing. What does Cure have against it? It's gonna have siege tanks. We got a Raven on the way, bunker already batting down, and Widowmine drop is heading in. Blink is done though. Clem already on top of the medevac, gonna be able to knock it down. The Widowmine's mitigated already, and with the blink, yep. And he knocks down the Hellion. Wow, Clem just completely dismantled that. Killed both Widowmines, got the medevac, didn't lose any probes, killed the Hellion, and now is completely clear to counterattack with the Blink Star. So a resounding success on defense for Clem. We'll see if he can translate it into a devastating attack. Charge is on the way. Forge behind. Now, that bulwark. Oh, but the barracks lands at the exact perfect moment. And just in time to drive Clem away. So, he's going to be okay for now. A Warp Prism scouting ahead. Actually, I'm not sure if he's doing it on purpose. Having the Warp Prism in order to juggle. Ooh, kind of floundering a bit. Flip-flopping those stalkers around, but ends up getting most of them out. But Cure, with his Clem-style wall-off here, including an engineering bay, will handle it just fine. And now auto turret's actually finding some damage. 3 probes dead. Will draw the worker count even, which is not great for the Protoss. The saving grace here, though, is that Clem already has a 3rd base completed. That 3rd Nexus. So... does he go in again? Clem always incredibly, sometimes over-aggressive with the Blink Stars. But most of the time manages to get away with it. With near-perfect micro. But for now, Cure... again, it hasn't gone incredible for him, but he set himself up for success. He has the triple racks, he's got the Stim Combat Shield and +1 on the way, Medevac's in production. He's managed to keep Clem's worker count pretty far down while building up his own. And he's going to have a very dangerous army now moving across the map. The Blink Stalker's coming in. Blinks in. Picks off an SCV. Slurps him back up on the way out. Now going to kite some of the Marines with the Stalkers at the front. Observer spotting for everything. Meanwhile, auto turret again targeting down some more probes. He's doing a great job of keeping Clem's probe count at bay. 52 to 50 workers, now evened out. Means that Cure is about equal on economy, especially with those mules. 3rd Command Center is now on the way. The Stalker is going to try to fight heads up. And another wave of Zealots. Ready to turn it around, but joining up with the Raven. Cure sieges up on the opposite side of this little blocker area where the half-built Thor is being put together. But Clem just... he just goes. Guardian Shields tries to snipe off, succeeds in taking out 1 tank, now targeting down the medevacs. And the charge lot's out in front seconds before combat shield completes, and Clem blinks away before another siege tank can siege up. I think the best case scenario there in that fight. Blinks in again, dodges the Widowmine force fields, a bit optimistic, but he's going to cut off a few of the Marauders, almost loses a medevac for it. But again, Clem able to keep Cure at bay and minimize the threat of a critical mass push like we saw Shameless struggle with when Clem had it. Now this Warp Prism drop, he warps in and he gets out. Just barely. Almost overstayed his welcome with the Prism, but turns it around. Observer taken out, the Raven still intact. Command Center trying to land, but Clem rudely out in front of things. Those force fields, strongly suggesting that no units go forward, but let's be honest here. They help the Terran more than the Protoss, as they usually do. Widowmine connected. I believe the Warp Prism. Oh no. The Warp Prism was what it hit. But Clem keeping the aggression, despite being down in supply, he's keeping the aggression on, forcing Cure to constantly micro on every front. And that's when he could make a mistake. He left at least one Zealot in the mineral line. 11 SCVs dead. And Clem actually has a bit of a worker lead now, while he goes for the 4th Nexus to the north side. Dark Shrine on the way. Tries to pick off another medevac. Cure pre-micros away. Well done. And now Clem, trying to put it all together. He's in a precarious position, though. He should know better than most how potentially weak this army is. A single Colossus, a few Tickle Beamers, and those sentries. And the Marauders on the low ground are pinned up against the mass force field. He gets the Raven, even more force fields. How many will it take? Apparently that's the number. Like 7 of them all just jammed on each other is enough to keep the Terran army at bay. The Colossus will be able to retreat and join up with another. Clem maintaining a similar supply. The upgrades plus 2 ground weapons for Clem. 1-1 for Cure. Does he even have an armory? No, he hasn't even started it. Just the pure composition here. Unfortunately, that composition is going to be more than enough. He runs into the charge lots, but he takes out a Colossus. Concussive shells is done, but picking off a Colossus is obviously a huge deal. A colossal one, I might say. If I was... Yeah, well... Really thought I'd come up with something better by the end of that sentence, but... Still nothing. Like and subscribe. Maybe my brain will restart, but... Cure. We need the antidote. No! Cure! At 136 to 145, so just read the production tab. Armory on the way. More missile turrets to zone things out. The DTs were spotted at some point. Second engineering bay, but Clem will have an upgrade advantage. A slight one. But so far, any sort of edge, he's managed to cut through and even things up at the very least. Clem now sneaking out a few more probes, going above that 3-base saturation. Second robotics facility is on the way. +3 weapons and +2 armor. Things slow down for a bit as both players trying to establish their economies and finally have enough defenses that small attacks are not going to be successful. Clem's going to try one to the north while heading to the south. The DTs are driven back. Some real deja vu here compared to his game against Shameless. Though Clem trying a lot more dual-pronged action here. The Vikings will chase down a Colossus. The Zealots and DTs catching each other in the center of the map. Throws out an EMP, actually misses the mark, and then the Ghost just gets incinerated. Meanwhile, EMP is on the ground, reveals the DTs. The Colossi, one of them just barely taken down. Another Viking will be targeted. A chaotic fight in the middle of the map. More Stalkers. Pummeled by the Marauders. Now Kier working on 2-2. He's stimming units out to the front. Another back and forth brawl. And overall, Clem has lost 3,000 more minerals, but 600 less gas. So, his tech's still intact. Decent economy. Kier maintaining a small supply lead throughout this. Disruptor shot thrown out. And now building 2 Colossi at a time. 3 Disruptors on the ground, but just trying to make sure he has that threat. The Viking count still growing for Kier, but the Colossi are still worth investing in. Clem now finishing +2 armor, +3 Protoss ground about to complete as well. Dark Templar blink too. Meanwhile, Kier's only halfway through the 2-2 upgrades for infantry weapons and armor. He just started +1 ship weapons. So he's a long way off any sort of comparable upgrade situation. Right now, Clem will be up 3. Which is certainly not where you want to be as Terran. The EMPs will help balance out some of it. Clem knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. He's got Zealots and DTs acting as pseudo-observers throughout literally the entire map. Disruptor shot thrown out, just crushing through a bunker. I think you're trying to bide his time till at least his upgrade's complete. He's about to be maxed out with more army supply if he gets there. Second starport, 8 barracks completed. The Viking count quite healthy. Looking to knock down one of those Colossi. Stalkers snipe off one of the Vikings. And did supply depots die? I guess so. Kier supply blocked at 180. A very awkward timing to be there. But he's finished 2-2, so Clem only a 1 upgrade advantage, but a Disruptor shot underneath, chucking up Zealots and Terran alike. Another shot to the north side, though, clips the Ghost. He's on the chase. The Colossi may fall. He survives through it. Another shot, 2 Zealots, or 1 Zealot and 2 SCVs. And Kier's just down 25 supply. Clem keeping the aggression on. Kier unable to dance out of the Disruptor shots like his counterpart on the other side. That 1 Colossus still adding a lot to the composition. Another Disruptor gets the Ghosts! And another one. And another one to drive things away. Snipes off one of the Vikings. Almost! Finally the Vikings will go down, but the Marauders double killed by the Ruptors. Kier is bleeding out on the field, and the Disruptors are cauterizing him instantaneously. Unfortunately, he's already dead. Meanwhile, another shot. Splits. DT's cutting off some of the reinforcements, but Kier now losing SCVs to Disruptors. Flings out another hit. Kier didn't even notice it. The Marauders eating it. And now up against 2 more Ghosts! It's like he has homing missiles on those Disruptor shots. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, we don't get to watch Clem play against Clem. And against anyone else, those Disruptors are a deadly choice. Wow. Kier just taps out. He's taken too many hits. That's enough for him. So Clem showing us both sides of the story in quite a dramatic fashion. But hopefully you enjoyed the anti-spoiler bonus game. And hopefully that mitigates a few of the, oh my god, what is Terran supposed to do against that sort of composition? Clem didn't even think about Psionic Storm. Alright, get out of here with that weak, magical... No, I'll take an explosive robot ball instead. Alright, Disruptor's doing terrible, terrible damage. But, hopefully... it made your day just a little bit better. Hopefully, if you got the means of motivation, you check out Patreon or a YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. Well, at least for now. So, thank you for watching. Thank you to the OSC Championship. Jimmy, put it in the description. And if you haven't yet checked out the second channel, starting to upload even more. I've always been streaming on it, but Winter Gaming TV. You can find it in the description, or you can use the search function on YouTube, which I know is almost like heresy nowadays. But either way, congratulations to Clem across the board. Looking forward to maybe some more Shameless. But thank you again for watching. Hope I made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.